Hi, I'm Dan Cortopassi. Today I'm going to take a look at some HO-scale vehicles that have come across my workbench in recent months. Since these are non-operating vehicles intended for static display, rather than a full-blown review, I'm just going to highlight some of the features of each model. This model was lent to me for review by Mark Weens. The most recent MSRP for this model I could find on the Wheels of Time website is $78.99. The model comes in a sturdy cardboard box. A two-piece plastic cradle protects the model. This is a good box that should protect the model for storage and transport. Wheels of Time also offers this accessory, a container-only spreader. This part has an MSRP of $19.99. This can be used to replace the part on the model that lifts trailers or containers. The Piggy-Packer is designed to lift trailers and containers to quickly load and unload railroad cars from the side. These machines were developed in the 1960s. Different versions have been produced since then. I found some photos of the real machines online and the model appears to be a very close match. The paint on the model is opaque and thin enough not to hide small details. The markings are crisp and free of voids. Many details are freestanding. I really like the photo-etched steps and walkways. The smaller wheels are steerable, and the thing that looks like a weather vane, presumably to let the driver know which way the wheels are pointed, moves along with them. The tires are rubber and the wheels have separate plastic hubs. None of the lights on the models are operable. The window glazing appears to be very thin and the cab has an interior. The windshield wipers are separate parts. In front, the lifting assembly has a number of moving parts. The boom can be raised and lowered, though I would suggest doing it very carefully. It clicks into place in various positions. The spreader attachments at the top can be moved to adjust for different sized trailers or containers. The hanging grips are also movable. There are magnets concealed in these parts to help hold magnetic containers. I was able to get the model to hold this magnetic Kato container without issues. The model has enough weight so that it won't tip over when it's holding a container. Because the gray grips are at a different height than the yellow ones in front, I wasn't able to actually lift a trailer. I could position the model to look as if it is about to lift the trailer. It looks like the gray pieces might be repositionable, but since this isn't my model, I don't want to risk it. The Piggy-Packer does roll, though it's not intended as a toy. This model would be a nice addition to an intermodal yard. If I can ever find one, it would look great in the intermodal area of the Sparks yard on my Donner Pass layout. I bought this model in December 2022 from modeltrainstuff.com for $33.99. This truck comes in a three-piece box made of clear plastic and heavy paper. A set of mirrors is tucked in the space under where the truck sits. The box is a little flimsy, but it should still give some protection to the model when stored as long as there's not too much weight on it. The Peterbilt 359 was built from 1967 to 1987. The model is of the 1973 version, but the overall look of the trucks was similar over the production run. There was some variation in small details like the headlights. I'm not a truck expert, but this model does look very close to photos I found of real Peterbilt 359s. The paint is nicely done. The complex graphics on the cab and sleeper are crisply rendered, and the white pinstriping is uniform in width. The only complaint I have is that the horizontal lines in the graphics are slightly misaligned between the sleeper, cab, and hood. Unless you're looking at the truck directly from the side, this isn't that noticeable. Some details like the grab irons on the sleeper cab and the lights in the cab roof are done in other colors, making them almost look like separately applied parts. The air horns are separate parts. Unlike some other HO-scale truck models, the hood does not seem to be openable. The cab has an interior, though it's black on my model and very hard to see. In back, there's a nicely done fifth wheel. If you wanted to super detail the truck, you could add some of the wiring hookups for the trailer back here. I was disappointed that the rear bumper and mud flap assembly in the back of the truck frame are crooked. I tried gently twisting it to see if I could straighten it out, but it didn't work. This would be a difficult fix. The easiest thing to do would be to hide this area under a trailer. Underneath, the detail is fairly good with freestanding driveline components. The axles have some play to rock side to side, so even though the frame is bent on my model, it will still sit with all the wheels on the ground. The truck will roll, though it's not really intended as a toy. If you wanted to get a toy truck for a child, you'd probably be better off with a die-cast model that would be more durable. I was able to put a Walthers trailer behind the truck, though the pin does not fully engage the fifth wheel. That shouldn't be a problem for static display, but the model won't actually tow the trailer. Long-haul trucks like this have been a fixture on Interstate 80 for as long as I can remember, so this truck will be right at home on my 1990s-era Donner Pass layout. I bought two of these models in February 2023 from modeltrainstuff.com for $25.99 each. The box for this car is similar to the one for the Peterbilt, only smaller. Again, this is not the most durable of boxes, but it should suffice if the model is packed with other lightweight boxes. In addition to the police version, I also got a second car decorated as a regular Caprice. Chevy produced this body style between 1977 and 1990. The model is marketed as a 1987 car. With the large single rectangular headlight on each side, these models could represent 1987 to 1990 Caprices and some 1986 cars. Earlier cars had 4 smaller headlights. I found photos of 1987 Caprices online, and the models look like a close match. The Highway Patrol car is a pretty good representation of the 9C1 police package version, though it lacks the spotlights and push bars that were common on many CHP cars at the time. The civilian version is a good representation of a late 80s Caprice Classic 4-door sedan. The paint on these models is very nicely done with a lot of fine details. I really like the grille and taillight treatment. Aside from the paint job, there are some differences in detail between the two models. The CHP car has plain rims and tires with a small hubcap in the center. The civilian Caprice has wire wheels and white wall tires. The tires on both cars appear to be made of rubber and are separate from the rims. The red car also has more streamlined side mirrors versus the more utilitarian mirrors on the police version. On top, the CHP car has a nicely done light bar. The blue and red areas are molded in transparent colored plastic. Some California Highway Patrol cars of the era had a light bar mounted inside the car rather than on the roof. I really like the hood ornaments on both cars, which appear to be photo-etched metal. Both cars have interiors. They're not super detailed, but there's enough there to look right on casual inspection. Underbody detail is fairly minimal and generic, but more than good enough for most situations. Unless you wanted to model an accident with the car flipped over, this part of the model wouldn't be visible. These models aren't intended as toys and don't roll very well. They would be great as static display pieces. These cars are perfect for my early to mid 1990s era, and I'm looking forward to using them on my HO scale Donner Pass layout. I bought this model in February 2023 from ModelTrainStuff.com for $25.99. The Cadillac comes in a box similar to the Caprices. The model is marketed as a 1975 Eldorado, though the 1976 model is very similar. 1976 was the last time a convertible version was offered until 1984. I found photos online of these cars, and the model looks like a good match. It's a throwback to an era when American luxury cars were enormous. The 80s era Caprice is a big car by today's standards, and the Eldorado is even longer and wider. The paint is really good. Many small details like the side trim and door handles are highlighted in silver. The pinstriping on the hood is really well done. I didn't see this particular graphic in photos of real cars, but it's certainly plausible. The Cadillac hood ornament appears to be photo-etched metal. The interior of the car is well done, which is important for a convertible. The steering wheel, seats, and door side panels look like separate parts. There are even sun visors over the windshield. I like the contrasting colors with off-white seats and dark red carpet and dash. Like the Caprice, this car has separately applied side mirrors. The white wall tires are separate and made of rubber or something similar. I really like the hubcap treatment, though a couple of them are slightly off-center on my model. Underbody detail looks like a scaled-up version of what's under the Caprice. There is a little bulge in the front axle to simulate the front-wheel drive setup of these cars. Like the Caprice, this model does not roll very well. It's more suited to static display and isn't meant to be a toy. When I saw this car, I had to get one to park near my future model of the Nugget Casino and Sparks on my HO scale Donner Pass layout. I figured some down on their luck high roller in a 20-year-old but still clean caddy is in town, hoping for that big score. I bought this model in February 2023 from ModelTrainStuff.com for $39.99. The model comes in a cardboard box with a clear plastic window. The tractor is secured to the inner cardboard piece with thread. I didn't see any way to remove the delicate model from the cardboard without cutting the thread. Without the thread to secure it, the tractor would rattle around inside the box, so I would be very careful when storing it. Moving it to some other container or placing it directly on a layout might be preferable. The Case VA series was introduced in 1942. Production was interrupted by World War II, but picked up again in 1944 and continued into the 1950s. Many of these tractors have survived, and some are still in use or have been restored for show. I'm not a tractor expert by any means, but I found photos of Case VA tractors online, and the model appears to be a very close match overall. There is some variation in small details, but from what I've been able to determine, Case made several versions of these tractors with different options, so that's to be expected. The paint on the model is nicely done. I really like how it looks slightly faded and weathered. Even the tires look a little worn. This maybe wouldn't work so well if you wanted to put several of these on a flat car as if they were being delivered new, but for a farm scene it would be great. The paint on the wheels is especially nice, with neatly done silver rims and red wheel centers. The model has a nice mix of molded on and separately applied detail. Many of the parts, like the steering linkage, gear shift, and hitch, are very delicate and should be handled carefully. The wheels don't spin, so this is definitely a static display model. It's far too delicate to be used as a toy. I don't have any farm country planned for my Donner Pass layout, but I think this tractor would look right at home in the Sierra foothills. Let's see what we've got. I didn't score this review, but I think all of these models work well as static display pieces. I do want to reiterate that these are intended as model railroad or diorama scenery, not as toys. None of these are robust enough to stand up being played with like Hot Wheels. That likely won't be a problem for most model railroaders who want to add them to a train layout. These vehicles are detailed enough to use as foreground models and would be a great addition to a layout scene. These models get green signals. I think these are all pretty good models. If you're looking for some HO scale vehicles for your layout, then you might want to check them out. If you like this video, then please like and subscribe. Stay tuned and thanks for watching.